Right. So first we will discuss about the quiz on queuing theory. Okay. So the first question, as you can see, is asking for a MM1 infinite FCFS queue. Which of the following conditions holds? Okay. So there are a few conditions given to you. So let us check one by one. So what is given? LS equals to mu into WQ. So let me open the EPT of queuing theory. So for uh, infinite capacity, what we have, so these are the formulas that we have, right, following the Little's equation. So what we are doing here is mu into WQ, right? So if we multiply mu with WQ, so let us write this one. So we have, WQ, right? So WQ is equals to, we have rho divided by uh, mu minus lambda, right? Sorry, mu minus lambda, right? Now in the question it has asked mu into WQ, right? So this is WQ. So if you multiply mu with it, right? So if you multiply mu with it, what we will have? So if you multiply mu with it, so see this, what is this rho? Rho is equals to lambda by mu, right? So since rho equals to lambda by mu, this mu and that mu will be cancelled, and we will be left with uh, so what we can do is like lambda, or just a minute. So we'll have mu into WQ. Okay, and I forgot the notation for your LS, right? So LS was rho divided by 1 minus rho. Okay, so since LS was rho divided by 1 minus rho, okay, so keep this rho over here. Okay, just keep this mu into the denominator. So what we can do is mu into rho. So we can write the same thing as rho. So we do not cross out the mu over in the above part. So what we will do, let the rho be there, and we will have like mu minus lambda, right, divided by mu. So if we, so this mu we can take in the denominator part like this, right? So now if we divided both of them by mu, so what we will have, we will have rho divided by 1 minus lambda by mu. So 1 minus lambda by mu is nothing but rho itself, right? So we get into the equation like rho divided by 1 minus rho, right, which is nothing but LS, right, which is nothing but LS. So mu into WQ we can transform it into LS, right, in case of MM1 infinite FCFS. So this condition is true. Okay, now let us see WS in is equals to rho into WQ. So again coming back to the slide, so WS equals to rho into WQ. So if we multiply rho over here, okay, so if we multiply rho over here, you can understand. So you will have rho square divided by mu minus lambda, right? Now in no way you can turn that rho square divided by mu minus lambda into 1 minus 1 divided by mu by lambda, mu minus lambda, right? So there is no way that you can transform rho square divided by mu minus lambda to 1 minus 1 divided by mu minus lambda. So that's why this cannot be true. Okay. Similarly, wq is equals to lambda into ws. So wq is equals to lambda into ws. So if you multiply lambda over here, so lambda divided by mu minus lambda. So let us try to, so what we have is like wq is equals to lambda into ws. So lambda into ws, so what it will be, so that will be lambda into 1 by mu minus lambda, right? Because ws equals to 1 divided by mu minus lambda. So if we multiply lambda with it, so we'll get like this, right? So if we want to make wq is equals to this one, so what our target is, we multiply lambda with ws, right? That we are doing, and we are trying to make it this one. So is it possible? So if we look at it, so in wq we have row above it, right? So row means this divided by mu. So what we can do, we can write it like lambda by mu, and this will be mu minus lambda by mu, right? So the above, so the this part you can write it as now row, right? So the above part will be row, but the denominator, so it should be mu minus lambda, right? But it will turn something like 1 minus row, right? So again that is ls, but this thing we cannot make into wq, right? So this is not equals to wq. Okay, so this is not equals to wq, uh, hence we cannot, this condition is also false. Okay. Next we have lq is equals to rho into ls. So if you look at it, so the formula for ls or expression for ls is rho divided by 1 minus rho, right? Now it is asking that rho into ls. So this is ls, so if you multiply rho with it, you will get rho square divided by 1 minus rho, right? So if you do rho square divided by 1 minus rho, this is nothing but lq, right? So this condition is true. Okay. So this is how the first question you can find out. This question using this gif, so this behavior, if you look at my ppt, is called as jockeying, right? So if you look at the slide, so jockeying is a customer may move from one queue to end of the another queue, right? This is what is called jockeying, and rest of the thing is not happening here. So if you look at this white customer, it is basically from one queue, it is or it is joining to the end of the another queue, right? From here it is joining to the end of the another queue. So this behavior is known as jockeying. Okay, so the answer will be jockeying. Most of you have done it correctly. Now this question, ferryghat at Sirampur operates from 6 am to 10 pm, right? It means in total it will operate for 16 hours, right? Between Sirampur and Barakpur. Okay. Now daily 9,600 people crosses the river from Sirampur. Now there is only one ticket counter at the ghat which serves 11 passengers per minute. Okay, with the help of very efficient staff. So the rate of service is basically 11 passenger per minute, right? So okay, 11. So with the help of efficient staff, so during the rush hour, the queue of the passenger gets so long that it reaches the main road outside the ghat. It means that there is no capacity of this system, means there is no limit on the capacity, the size can be infinite. Okay, so this statement actually denoting that the size of the queuing system is nothing but infinite, that during the rush hour the queue of the passenger gets so long that it reaches the main road outside the ghat. So no capacity is given to you, it means it is with an infinite capacity. Okay, so now you want to go to Barakpur from Sirampur. What is the probability that you have to wait for some time in the queue at the ferryghat? So it means you have to wait in the queue. So when you have to wait in the queue, so you have to wait in the queue when there is a queue, right? Or you are the first person in the queue. So if you think of it, so if you think of it, so you have to wait in the queue only when uh, I mean only when there is one person. I mean, not like that. I mean, there is at least one person in the system, right? You have to wait in the queue. So suppose this is the queue and this is the ticket counter, right? So if the ticket counter is empty, no person in the ticket counter, then you can come, right? Then you can come and directly go to the ticket counter. You do not have to wait in the queue. But if there is one person in the system, he has to wait in the queue. I mean, he is basically being served at that moment, right? So at that time, if you join, so you have to wait in the queue, right? So this is the first time you have to wait in the queue, and if there is already some queue, you also have to wait in the queue, right? So it is asking that what is the probability that you have to wait some time in the queue at the ferryghat. So you have to wait some time in the queue if there is at least one person in the system, right? So what is the probability that there is at least one person in the system, right? So to find out the probability that there is at least one person in the system is nothing but 1 minus p0, right? Where p0 is the probability that 0% in the system. So p0 refers the number of probability that there are 0% in the system. So probability that there is at least one person means all the other probabilities like p1, p2, p3, p4. So that means that at least one person will be in the system, right? So 1 minus p0 is nothing but gives you the probability that uh, there will be at least one person in the system, right? So now if you expand it, so it will give you 1 minus now p0. If you can remember, for this system, infinite system, okay, so for infinite system, the expression for p0 was 1 minus rho, right? So if you look at it, so the expression for p0 was 1 minus rho, right? So here we will replace that with p0 with 1 minus rho, right? Now if we take it out of the bracket, these two one will be cancelled, and the probability that there will be at least one person in the system will be equals to rho. So what you have to find out, you have to find out the rho or traffic intensity for this for this problem, right? So now to find out traffic intensity or rho, what we will have, so now traffic intensity, so this is equals to lambda by mu, right? So this is equals to lambda by mu. So now we have to find out what is lambda and what is mu. So daily 9,600 people cross the river, right? Between 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. right? So if you look at it, so 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. is nothing but is your 12 plus 4 16 hours, right? So in 16 hours 9,600 people crosses the river. So that means per hour there will be 9,600 divided by uh, 16, right? So this will give you the number of people crosses the river per hour. Okay, so this is nothing but 60, sorry, 600, right? So per hour 600 people crosses the river. So that means how many person crosses the river per minute. So we can also divide it by 60, right? So every minute 10% is crossing the river. It means that every minute 10 persons are getting served, right? And if you look at so this is what your lambda is, right? So 10% is getting served. Okay, now if you look at that there is only one ticket counter at the ghat which serves 11 passenger uh, per minute. Sorry, this is your mu. uh, yes, sorry, this is your lambda. Yes, this is your lambda because 9,000 people actually is coming within 16 hours, right? So this is your arrival rate. So this is your lambda. Okay, so 9,000 people are coming in total 16 hours. So 9,000 people is basically 9,600 people is basically arriving at your system, right? So this rate is giving you the lambda. Okay, and if you look at it, there is only one ticket counter at the ghat which serves 11 passenger per minute, right? So the rate of service, that is mu, is nothing but 11 passenger per minute. Okay, so we get lambda is equals to 10 and mu is equals to 11. So if you replace it, you will get it around 90 point something percent. Okay, so you will have over 10 divided by 11. Okay, this is around 90%. Okay, so that will be your answer. Okay, now there will be same context different questions. So two questions with the same contents are given to you, right? Due to the lockdown protocol for COVID-19, a customer care center is working with only a single support staff. Okay, in his 8 hours of working shift, he was able to serve 32 customers only. Okay, and there are only 10 seat available with the to the waiting customer. So there are only 10 seat available, mean the queue length or sorry, the system capacity is or your queue length you can tell is 10, right? So the staff found all the customer seats were full when his shift started. Okay, so when the shift started, when he comes to serve the customer, okay, there are all the seats are full. Okay, so in the shift system what happened, there will be a person working. Now since I mean when the person shift is over, another person comes in to serve, right? So when this person comes to serve, he found that already 10 all the seats were full. Okay, the system was full. Now the staff found that all the customer seats were full when his shift started. During his shift, he found that the customer seat had never been vacant. So how it is possible? So like you will have 10 seats available for customer. Okay, and suppose this is the service desk uh, s- where the staff is serving the customers. Okay, so one person is getting served over here and there will be 10 seats for the customers to wait. So when the shift changes, when this person comes in, okay, so he found that all these seats are full. Okay, and he starts serving one. Now as per the question, it is telling that the staff found that all the customers seats were full when his shift started. During his shift, he found that the customer seat had never been vacant. So the customer seats, I mean these seats were never vacant. How it is possible? So in an ideal situation, it will look like that Suppose this person is now getting served and his service is now over. Okay, so he will leave the system, right? Now once he leave the system, the next person will join this server to get served, right? Now the thing is, in this scenario, in ideal case, what you can think is like, as soon as one this person come to join this service facility, uh, a person enters for the service. Okay, now he will find that there will be one seat vacant, so he will join to the queue. Okay, so this is how, I mean, this will be the ideal case. In I mean, this, on average, this will be the scenario. It may be possible that there are 2 seats or 3 seats got vacant, by 3 people got served, and after some time 3 people joins the system within 1 hour. Okay, so that can be the scenario. Okay, so or in an ideal case, you can think of like it, that as soon as one person is getting served, or as soon as one person is leaving the system, one person from the queue joins to be served. Okay, joins the server to get served, and as soon as this person leaves the queue to join this service facility, another customer comes in and joins the queue. Okay, so then only this scenario will happen, that during his shift he found the customer seat has never been vacant. Now further information is telling that moreover 40 customers left the facility during that 8 hours, as they didn't get a seat to sit. So in such situation, when the seats are full, there will be customer who are visiting, but since they found that the seats are full, they will be leaving then and there, means they are forced to bulk, right? Okay, so what is the traffic intensity of this call center? So the thing is, traffic intensity rho is given by lambda by mu, right? So now we have to find out what is lambda and what is mu. So if you look at this question, it is telling that in his 8 hours of working shift, he was able to serve 32 customers only. Okay, so in 8 hours he was able to serve 32 customers. So the rate of service, that is mu, is 32 customers in 8 hours, right? So per hour he is serving 32 divided by 8, that is 4 customers per hour. Okay, so this is the rate of service, mu. Now what is the rate of arrival? So now if you look at this question, it is telling that since the seat was never vacant, right? Since the seats were never vacant, so as soon as one person is getting served, another person comes in, right? So every 4 hour, I mean every hour there are 4 people are getting served, right? So every hour 4 people are joining the system. So every hour 4 people are joining the system. That's why this staff found that the seats were never vacant, right? Or as soon as the seat got vacant, someone comes and join the system. So every time 4 people joining the system. So this is one thing. Another thing is, it is told that moreover 40 customers left the facility during that 8 hours. Okay, it means this force bulking rate. So it was basically 40 people in 8 hours, right? So per hour 40 divided by 8, right? That is equals to 5 people has left the facility per hour, right? So the total arrival rate is basically the number of person joining the system per hour plus number of person that are not able to joining the system because the seats are full. So the total arrival rate is basically 4 plus 5, that is 9 person per hour. Okay, and this is your lambda. Okay, so now if you try to find out the traffic intensity, what you will get? You will get 9 by 4, which is nothing but 2.25. Okay, so 9 by 4, this is nothing but 2.25. So this will be your answer for this case. Okay, so this is how the system will be. Again the same context and different question, and here it is asking what is the effective arrival rate of customers in person hours. So effective arrival rate, if you can remember, is the rate at which the customer joins the system, right? So the rate at which one can join the system, which is basically lower than the original arrival rate. So the rate at which the customers are joining the system is nothing but 4, right? 4 people are joining per hour in the system, as per this question. So effective arrival rate is 4, that you can find out. So there is also a mathematical formula. If you can go through this mathematical expression, you can also find that the effective arrival rate will be 4. So there are two ways you can find this answer for this question. uh, the effective arrival rate, so effective arrival rate is the number of persons that are able to join, right, in the system. So you can see that through this calculation, the number of persons that can join the system is 4 per hour, right? 4 persons can join per hour, uh, using this logic. Okay, or if you go by the expressions of this effective, lambda effective, so what we will have, we will have lambda into 1 minus pn, right? So if you go like this through the expression lambda effective, okay, so you will have like lambda into 1 minus pn, right? So we already calculated the lambda over here, which is 9, right? So lambda was 9, so we'll replace lambda by 9, and we will also have to find out what was the expression for pn, probability that there are n person in the system. So the expression for pn was rho to the power, rho to the power n, right, into p0, right, rho to the power n into p0. Now the expression of p0 was, uh, so this, sorry, so the value of rho is 2.25, right? 2.25 into, 10 to the, sorry, into 10, right? N was 10, and p0, so if you look at p0, so the expression for p0 was, uh, here it is. So expression for p0 is 1 minus rho divided by 1 minus rho to the power n plus 1 when rho equals to 1, sorry, rho not equals to 1, and 1 divided by 1 plus, n or n plus 1, when rho equals to 1. So we found that here rho not equals to 1, right? So we will have this expression for our, uh, p0, right? So if we follow this expression 1 minus rho divided by 1 minus rho to the power n plus 1, so we will have like 1 minus 2.25 divided by 1, uh, minus 2.25 to the power 11. Okay, now if you calculate it using a calculator, so what was the, why it is getting out of it? Okay, so what we have, we have 9 into, sorry, so we have 9 into, uh, 1 minus 2.25, to the power 10, right, into, we'll have 1 minus 2.25, right, divided by 1 minus 2.25 to the power 11. Okay, so this is the expression that we had. So 9 into 1 minus 2.225 to the power 10 into 1 minus 2.25 divided by 1 minus 2.25 to the power 11. So if you do it, you will get the value like 3.999, okay, which is equivalent to 4. Okay, so either way, I mean, this was the easiest way to find out using the logic, which was 4, but you can also go through the expression of lambda effective, which will also give you the value of 4. Okay, so for this case the answer will be 4. And the final question, so now it is asking that a doctor has arranged n seats uh, in her chamber for her patient to wait for their turn. Okay, so it means that the length of the queue is n, right? Or the system has a capacity of capital N. Now during the appointment booking, as she knows the capacity of her chamber and average checkup time, she schedules the appointment such that as soon as a patient left, another one arrives. So whenever she is giving time to her patients, she I mean almost know the way she treats. Okay, she almost know the average time of checkup of each uh, patient, and that's why she schedules her appointment in a way that as soon as one patient is checked up, okay, and leave the system, then and there another patient comes in and join the system. Okay, now if it is the scenario, then what will be the expression for ls, lq and lambda effective for the doctor's chamber? So what we have? So see, this is basically a system with limited capacity, right? Finite capacity, which is n. Now to find out the value of ls, lq and lambda effective, so what we will do? So this is the expression for your ls, right? Now if you remember, when I was discussing in the lecture that when we found that rho equals to 1, when we find that rho equals to 1, the expression wherever p0 appears, we will replace it by 1 by n plus 1 in place of this one, right? Whenever it will appear, right? Now in this question, if you think in this question that as soon as a as soon as some patient is leaving the system, another patient is joining the system, right? So it means the rate of service is equals to the rate of arrival, right? I mean, the number of person when a person is leaving, then and there another person is joining. So if this happens continuously, it means that the rate of arrival is equals to rate of leaving, right? So that will give you the value of rho. So that will give you the value of rho is equals to 1, as the rate lambda equals to mu in this case. Okay, so we'll have p0 equals to 1 divided by n plus 1, and whenever we will be going to derive the expression for such kind of system where rho equals to 1 in this finite capacity q, what we will do, we'll replace with p0 with this value and rho with 1. Okay, so now if we try to derive the expression of ls, so we'll go through this, and as soon as we'll arrive in this step, or in this step, whatever you can, so as soon as we arrive in this step, whenever the value of p0 appears, what we will do, we'll replace it by 1 divided by n plus 1. Okay, and value of rho with 1. So if we do, so we'll have ls equals to summation of uh, n equals to sorry, I equals to 0 to n, I is equals to 0 to n, right? And we'll have I into rho to the power I into p0, right? So I into rho to the power I into p0. Okay, Now as soon as we come at this expression, so what we have in this system, we found that the rate of arrival equals to rate of departure, right? So that means traffic intensity rho is equals to 1, and since traffic intensity is 1, we have p0, or probability that there are 0% in the system is basically 1 divided by n plus 1, right? So this will give us so we'll replace the value over here, so we'll have like summation of I is equals to 0 to n, okay, and I. Now rho to the power I means 1 to the power I, right? So 1 to the power I means 1 itself, right? So rho to the power I will be replaced by 1, right? And this p0 will be replaced by 1 divided by n plus 1, right? So we'll have the expression like I divided by n plus 1, right? So since n plus 1 is not dependent on I, what we can write is like 1 divided by n plus I is outside the summation sign, right? Because it is not dependent on I, and then we will have I is equals to summation of I is equals to 0, summation of I equals to 0 to n, and we will have I, right? So this is your normal summation like 0 plus 1 plus 2 plus up to n, right? So this summation formula will give you, so we will have this n plus 1 divided by n plus 1 over here, and this summation formula will give you n into n plus 1 by 2, right? 1 plus 2 plus 3 up to n will give you n into n plus 1 divided by 2. So now this n plus 1 and this n plus 1 will be cancelled out, we will be left with, so we will be left with n by 2, right? So this is what the value of ls will be. Now many of you have for this question have opted for ls equals to infinite, right? Because if you look at it, final expression of ls, you will have 1 minus rho, and the value of rho is 1, so that will be cancelled out, so it will be 0, right, in the denominator. And so many of you have make it as infinite because in the denominator we have 0. But the thing is, whenever we have rho is equals to 1, right, whenever we have rho is equals to 1, the expression of p0 is changed to 1 divided by n plus 1. So if you try to find out some expression and you find that the traffic intensity is 1, that is arrival rate equals to departure rate, then we will have to consider this scenario, okay? So then in all the expression where p0 appears, we have to uh, replace it via 1 divided by n plus 1 in place of this, okay? So that is what we have to do. Just a minute. Okay, so now we have found out the value of ls should be n divided by 2, okay? So there are two options where ls equals to n divided by 2. So next what we will do, we will try to find out the value of lq, okay? So if you look at the value of lq, so now this expression gives you the value of lq, right? So if you try to derive the expression with for value of lq, we will start with this, will eventually come up to this, right? So prior to that, we do not have any interpretation of value of p0 or any interpretation of value of rho, right, prior to this derivation. So if you try to start deriving the value of lq, you will get this line next, then this line, then this line, and finally this line. Now here we have what we have done, we have replaced the value of p0, right, with that expression when rho not equals to 1. Now when rho is equals to 1, we have to replace it with 1 minus 1 divided by n plus 1, okay? So we'll start with that expression only. So for lq, so for lq what we have ls right, minus 1 minus p0. So ls minus 1 minus p0. Okay, now the value of ls is n by 2 in this scenario, right, which we already have derived. So we will have n by 2 in place of ls, and in the minus sign we will have 1 minus 1 divided by n plus 1. Okay, so now if you further simplify it, you will get like n by 2 minus, if you simplify it, we will in the above we will have n plus 1 minus 1. So n plus 1 for this 1 into n plus 1 and minus 1 for this minus 1. Okay, divided by n plus 1. So you will have like this. So you will have n by 2 minus n by n plus 1. Okay, so if you further simplify it, you will get 2 of n plus 1 okay, and 2 of n plus 1. Now this n will be multiplied with n plus 1, right, so that will be n squared plus n, right. So this n will be multiplied with this n plus 1, and these 2 will be multiplied with this n, right. So we'll have minus 2n, right. So if these 2 will be cancelled out to minus n, right, or reduced to minus n. So we'll have like n squared minus n divided by 2n plus 1. Okay, and you can also write it like n into n minus 1 divided by 2n plus 1. Okay, so this is what we have. Now if you see the options, so for this we will have n into n minus 1 divided by 2n plus 1. Okay, same as this one. So this should be your options, because here we will have n square into n minus 1 divided by 2n. So that here is a n square, right, so that is not correct. Now if you try to find out lambda effective, so let us try to find out the value of lambda effective. So the lambda effective is lambda into 1 minus pn, right. So let me clear this out. And for this same example, we lambda effective is we have lambda into 1 minus p of n, right. Okay, so that is equals to lambda into 1 minus rho to the power n into p0, right. Now for this we have value of rho is equals to 1, right, because in this doctor's example the arrival date equals to departure rate. So rho equals to 1, so this term will be 1, so will be reduced to lambda into 1 minus p0. Now value of p0 is nothing but 1 divided by n plus 1, right. So we'll have like lambda into 1 minus 1 divided by n plus 1. Okay, as rho equals to 1. So now if you further simplify it, you will have lambda is equals to if we have just simplified these things, right, in the previous expression. So this will give you n into n by 1. Okay, sorry, n divided by n plus 1. So this is your expression for lambda effective for this scenario. Okay, so you'll have lambda n divided by n plus 1. So if you look at it, we'll have lambda n divided by n plus 1. So this is what your answer will be. Okay, in lambda effective mu cannot come over here. Okay, so this is those who have choose this option, this should not be chosen. I mean, if you look at it, it should not be this one. Okay, so this is the case. So we have discussed the quizzes for queuing theory. So if you have any questions, any doubt regarding any of the question, please ask. So if you have any question on any of, I mean, if you have any doubt on any of the questions, please ask. Okay, Mohammed is telling something. Now it is clear to me. Okay, thank you, Mohammed, for the feedback. So if you do not have further question, then we'll move to the next quiz, which is basically on the last topic, right? That is inventory models. I mean, this was very unexpected that all of your performance was very poor in this quiz. I mean, if I show you the marks, distribution of marks, you can see this is the distribution of marks. Okay, and till date, whatever the exams or quizzes that I have taken, your marks distribution was always above 6. Most of the time it is 8, 9, 10, 7, 8, 9, 10. It is always above greater than equals to 5 or 6. Okay, but this time all of them are actually less than 6. Okay, highest was 6, only one person has got it, but most of them are 2 and 3 and 4. So that was somewhat anyways. So let us discuss the questions. So this one everyone has got correct. In inventory model, when to order is measured by, so in inventory model, when to order is measured by the number of items left in the inventory, right, which is denoted by the reorder level. Okay, so most of you have done this correctly. Okay, so let me open it from here. Okay, so this is what this will be your option. Okay, now the thing is, the next question, why we didn't employ linear programming to solve the classic EOQ model without shortage? And probably one of you have done it correctly and most of you haven't done it correctly. So this was the first question. For the second question, why did why we didn't employ the linear programming to solve the classic EOQ model? Only two of you got it correct. Okay, let me not get into who have or how many of you have done it correct. Okay, let me just get into the questions. So okay, so the question was is reverse. I mean, is randomized. Okay, so let me do it one by one. So in the basic EPQ model, without shortage, having set of, okay, so we have basic EPQ model without shortage. Okay, having setup cost K, purchased cost capital P, holding cost. So this is the normal notations. Okay, and order quantity Q. What is the inventory level when the production is completed for a cycle? Right. So we have a EPQ model where we have the constant demand rate of D and constant production rate of R. Okay, and we have the order quantity Q. Right. So every time Q number of items will be produced. Right. but the question asks what is the inventory level, that is the number of items in the inventory when the production is completed for a cycle. So if I open deterministic EPQ slide with that EPQ model, right? So if you look at this graph of the EPQ model, what we have, production rate R, slope R, right? So this is the rate at which it is producing. Now what was the inventory level? The inventory, I mean order quantity is Q. So if the slope, I mean if the rate of production is R, okay, so how much time will be required for the manufacturer to produce Q items? Okay, so we are making Q items, right? Productions for a cycle will be Q items. So the time that the manufacturer will require to produce Q items is basically Q divided by R, right? Because at a rate R it is producing, so the time it will require is basically Q by R, right? So that the time the production will be complete is basically this one, Q by R. Okay, so what will be the inventory level when it is at Q by R, right? When the time is Q by R. Now see, during, I mean in this model, the production is running in parallel with the demand, right? It means the original slope of or original rate of at which the inventory is getting filled up is basically R minus D, right? Because inventory is produced with a rate of R, but at the same time it is consumed with the rate of D, right? So the you can say that the inventory, that is, I mean the rate of fill up of the inventory or rate of replenishment of the inventory is basically R minus D, right? Because you can understand that R is the rate of production and D is the rate of demand. So suppose in a time unit it has produced R items, right? And since the demand for that time unit is D units will be consumed, right? So the remaining R minus D items will be left into the inventory, right? So per unit time you will have R minus D items left into the inventory, or that is the rate at which the inventory is getting filled up, right? Now the production will be completed or Q items will be produced by the factory when the time is Q divided by R, right? At time Q by R the production will be completed. So at that time the slope will I mean the inventory level will be R minus D into Q by R, okay, or that is this value, R minus D into Q by R, or this level. So when the inventory reaches at this level, okay, when the inventory reaches at this level, so by that time the inventory, I mean by that time the producer or the manufacturer has produced Q items. Okay, the producer has produced Q items, but out of those Q items, simultaneously the items are consumed, right? So once, I mean when the producers have produced Q items in total, the inventory level will be at R minus D divided by Q into R at this level. Okay, so when the production is completed for a cycle, the inventory level will be R minus D into Q by R, okay, or this option. Okay, so the inventory level, so I mean get this thing clear into your head, like the production rate is R, okay, and the it will be producing Q items, the order quantity. So order quantity is Q, okay, so it will be producing in a cycle, the manufacturer will be producing Q units during a cycle, but when that Q units will be produced, by that time some will be consumed and it will be left with only R minus D into Q bar Q divided by R, this amount, only this amount will be left into the inventory. Okay, so when the production will be complete, the inventory level will be R minus D divided by R minus D into Q by R. Okay, so that will be your inventory level when the production is complete. Oh, sorry. Now for the next question, for a 2-bin system, the probability distribution of demand follows a normal distribution with mean mu and variance sigma square. Which of the following statements about the bins are true? So this probability, the probability distribution of demand is following normal distribution, right? So if we come to the slide of that stochastic inventory model for two bin system, where we have done this this one, right? So we have done the two bin system for normal distribution, right? So now which of the following is statements are true? So the number of items in one bin is always greater than equals to sigma. So if you remember in two bin system, okay, so let me come into the two bin system. So if you come to the description of the two bin system, so here we will have two bin, right? So in the first bin we will have the item number of items equals to reorder point. Okay, so capacity of one bin, say the first bin, is equals to the reorder point. Okay, and nothing has been told about the capacity of the second bin. So if you consider two bin system, one bin you will have capacity of the reorder point, right? And the other bin nothing has been told. So only information you can gather is only information you can tell about the bins is of this first bin, right? Which have the number of items equals to the order quantity. For the second bin, no such information is given. It is only told that initially the product is consumed from the other bin. Okay, and once the second bin is empty, now the order is placed, as there will be only reorder point of items left in the inventory. Okay, so what we have in this two bin system, we can only do something deterministically with the one bin which have only reorder points of item as its capacity, right? So the number of items in one of the bins is always greater than or equals to sigma. Okay, the number of item in one of the bins is always greater than or equals to expected demand. The number of items in both the bins together, not individually, is always greater than or equals to safety stock. The number of items in one of the bins is always greater than or equals to safety stock. So if you look at these options, all of them are telling that the number of items in one of the bins. Okay, now out of these two bins you have information or about only one bins. Deterministically you have only information about only one bins, which is the reorder point, whose capacity is the reorder point or the first bin, right? So now if you look at this normal distribution scenario, you have the value of reorder point is this one, right? So the capacity of one of the bin is which is basically equals to the reorder point is this one, mu plus sigma into k alpha, right? So now from this expression we have to find out that what are the options that are correct. So if you look at this, the number of items in one of the bins, so we always refer to the bin which first bin which has the capacity of reorder point. Okay, so the number of items in one of the bins is always greater than or equals to sigma. Now if you look at it, so the expression is mu plus sigma into k alpha. Now the value of k alpha can be anything, right? It can be less than, greater than 0 obviously, but it can be less than 1, right? So sigma into k alpha can be less than sigma itself. Okay, and mu can be any value. So let us take an example, and we can show that this value cannot be greater than sigma. So this option is demanding that the number of items in one of the bin is always greater than or equals to sigma. Okay, suppose value of sigma is 4. Okay, suppose value of sigma is 4 and value of mu is 1. Okay, so mu is 1, sigma is 4, and suppose value of k alpha is 0.5. So in that scenario we will have 4 into 0.5 is 2 plus mu is 1, right? So 1 plus 2 is 3. So reorder point for that example will be 3, but value of sigma in that case is 4, right? So this statement, which is demanding the number of item in one of the bin is always greater than or equals to sigma is not correct, right? Because we already have seen an example for which this statement doesn't hold, right? For example, when sigma is equals to 4 and mu is equals to 1 and k alpha is equals to 0.5 or anything less than 0.5, you will get that this will never go above sigma. Okay, so that statement is false. Okay, false. The number of items in one of the bins is always greater than or equals to the expected demand. So the expected demand for this is nothing but mu, right? So the expected demand is nothing but mu. So for this expression, the reorder level will always have greater than value which is will always have greater than the expected value of demand, right, which is mu. Because this term cannot go negative, because the sigma, I mean, though the it will be given by the sigma squared, and if you try to find out the sigma, you will have plus minus value, right? But since in this case we do not have negative number of items, we should not consider this scenario when the value of sigma is negative. Okay, so we'll and in practically in this scenario we'll have sigma is always greater than 0. Okay, we'll take the value which is greater than 0. So for this example, so we'll have like mu, so we'll have expected demand which is mu plus some positive item, right? So this will be value of r will be greater than expected uh, expected demand, right? So the number of items in one of the bin, which is the first bin, right, is always greater than or equals to the expected demand. Okay, so this will be the correct one. Now if you look at this one, the number of items in one of the bin is always greater than or equals to the safety stock. So if you look at this one, so this expression sigma into k alpha is nothing but known as the safety stock, right? R minus mu is given or reorder level minus the expected demand is giving you the safety stock, right? So this sigma into k alpha is nothing but the safety stock. So from this expression, what you can tell that this reorder level or items in the first bin will also be greater than or equals to this sigma into k alpha or safety stock, right? So this option, the number of items in one of the bin is always greater than or equals to the safety stock. So this will also be correct. Now if you look at this option, so the number of items in both the bins together, not individually, is always greater than or equals to the safety stock. The thing is the number of, so if you can remember, I mean, if we remove this part, that the not individually part, then the statement will be correct. The number, if we read this out, except this not individually part, it will be like the number of items in both the bins together is always greater than or equals to the safety stock, which is correct. But as soon as we introduce the term not individually, that is not correct, because we already found that one of the bin will always be greater than the safety stock, right? So it means that, I mean, the statements, I mean, this option is stating that both the bin together will give you the number of items which is greater than safety stock, but not individually. I mean, not any of them is individually greater than the safety stock, but we found that one of the bin is always greater than the safety stock, right? Greater than or equals to the safety stock, that is the first bin. So that's why this statement is not correct. Okay, so that is this question. So this I have already told, right? In inventory models, when to order is measured by the duration of no, sorry, the number of items left in the inventory, right? Okay, now this question, in a news vendor model with no initial inventory and no setup, the demand is uniformly distributed between 100 and 200 items. So the demand distribution is uniform and it is from 100 to 200 items, right? Now the purchase cost is 5, that is capital P is 5, holding cost and shortage cost is 7 and 3 per item per day, that is your small h is 7 and small p is 3, right? So what will be the EOQ for this inventory? So if you go to the slide of news vendor model, So this is what we have got as our expression, right, for news vendor model. So what is the EOQ of this inventory? So we found, so this was our expression. So once we solve this expression, we'll get the value of this A star, right? Now this expression will be depending upon the underlying probability distribution of the demand. Okay, so if the probability distribution is normal distribution, then this expression will be something else. Now we have in our example the probability distribution of uniform distribution, right? So uniform distribution. So in case of uniform distribution, so if we come over here, so what we are trying to find out, we are trying to find out this probability d less than equals to the A star. So what we have found, if you can remember, this A star is nothing but the Q star, because in this news vendor model we have considered the initial inventory as 0, right? And if you can remember, so we have this expression for S, right? S was the order quantity Q and the initial inventory I. Now for our example, we assumed, or we we assume that for this news vendor model, this I is equals to 0, or initially we do not have any inventory, right? So that's what we'll have S equals to Q for this news vendor model. Okay, so we have to find out that the value of S star, right? So the probability distribution that the demand is less than equals to S star, so we'll have like this one. So P, probability distribution that the demand is less than or equals to A star. Now for our example, what we consider that the probability distribution is of your normal, not normal, uniform distribution from 100 to 200. So for a for a probability distribution which is a uniform distribution from A to B, right? So this expression will be given to you as like A star. I mean, so suppose this is your this is what you are trying to find out, and where the probability distribution of D is uniform distribution from A to B, right? So this will be is equals to A star minus A divided by B minus A, right? Where A is the lower limit and B is the upper limit of that uniform distribution. Okay, and for our example, this equals to this expression, right? So probability distribution for the uniform distribution, we have this expression, that probability that demand is less than or equals to S star is this one. Okay, and that is equals to, we will have this minus p, sorry, small p minus capital P divided by small p minus sorry, plus small h, right? So this is the expression what we can found from this. Okay, so now if we try to simplify it in our example, the if you can remember the question, we have the uniformly distribution uniformly distributed between 100 and 200 items. Okay, so the value of A is 100 over here. So this minus 100, and in the denominator we will have 200 minus 100, right? So 200 minus 100. Okay, and here we will have okay, so if you look at the purchase cost is INR 5 per item, right? Purchase cost is denoted by capital P, this one. So we will have 5 over here. Okay, small p was the shortage cost, right? So the shortage cost is 3 per item per day. So the shortage cost is 3 per item per day, so that is 3, and here is also 3. Okay, and the holding cost is 7 per item, right? So holding cost is 7. So this is what you got. Okay, and if you solve it, you will have like a star a star minus 100. So what we will have over here, so this will be 100, right, and will be multiplied over here, so we will have 100 into, here we will have minus 2 divided by 10, right, so we will have minus 2 divided by 10, right, so we will have minus 20 over here. So from that we will get a star is equals to 100 minus, this will be 20, right, so which is equals to 80. Okay, so this is how you have to do it. So remember, this, so this expression, this so this value will be dependent upon the probability distribution that will be given to you. Okay, so for this uniform distribution, this is the expression for this probability. Okay, probability that the demand is less than or equals to a star will be given by this expression in case of uniform distribution. But if it is normal distribution or any other distribution, so that will be changed accordingly. Okay, and this will be equals to this, so the right hand side will always be this one, only the left hand side will be dependent on the probability distribution given to you, and that thing you can derive, I mean get it from in any, I mean you should do it from your previous mathematics class on probability and statistics and all. Okay, so for different distribution this will give you different expression, and you have to solve the question accordingly. So for this example, what we have found, we have found that the thing will be 80. Okay, so the UQ for this inventory will be 80. Okay, now this question, and this question many of you has probably misjudged it by this. Okay, so let me get into the question. So during the Indochina war at Galwan Valley, the inventory of the armors of Indian Army are optimally filled at 2000 armors. Okay, it means that the inventory over there or the EOQ is 2000 items. Okay, or 2000 armors. Now the armors are used at a rate of 100 units per day, right? So the consumption rate or the demand rate is 100 units per day. Now the Galwan Valley being at high altitude inaccessible area, armor supply required 50 days to reach the army camp. Okay, so it means uh, the lead time is basically 50 days. So when you order for more armors to the base camp, okay, it will take 50 days to reach the armor to the Galwan Valley. It will take 50 days. Okay, so what is the lead time demand of the armors in Indian Army Corps? So if I come to the slide about this one, so first we derive this expression without without considering any lead time, right? We consider lead time equals to 0, and then we introduce lead time, and what we found that lead time, so when the lead time is less than cycle duration, then we have the value of lead time is equals to value of the lead time demand is L into D, right? That is the demand rate into the lead time duration. But when it is greater than single cycle duration, okay, when L spans more than one cycle duration, okay, then we have to find out the L effective, right, or effective lead time, and we will have this one reorder point as effective lead time into demand rate. Okay, now if we see this example, so uh, what is the cycle duration over here? So we will have 2000 armors, right, in the inventory, optimal inventory, and we are consuming 100 items, 100 armors per day. So the time to the time that when the inventory will reaches 0, or the cycle duration will be 200 divided by 10, 200 divided by 100, right, which is basically 20. right? So the cycle duration will be 20, right? So we'll have this as 2000, right? At this point we have 2000, and we're consuming at a 100 items per day, and it will come down. So when it will come to 0, that is your cycle duration, right? So when it come to 0, okay, so we'll have 2000 by 100, that is equals to 20 days. Okay, so the cycle duration is 20 days. Okay, but we have this lead time is 50 days, right? So the lead time is greater than uh, lead time is greater than the cycle duration, right? So what we have to do, we have to find out the effective lead time, right? So the effective lead time means how much time that doesn't actually over the uh, I mean, what is the excess of full cycle, or how we can find out the effective lead time? Effective lead time, we have to find out this n, right? N denote the count of full cycles covered by L, right? So in this example, we have say T be the time. Okay, cycle duration is the capital T. Let us denote cycle duration by capital D, and for this example we have found that the cycle duration is 2000 divided by 100, right? Which is equals to 20 days. Okay, and we are given that the lead time is equals to 50 days, right? So if you think of it, so we will have kind of, so initially we will have this 2000 level of inventory or armors filled, and it is now consumed at a rate of 100 items per day, right? So at 20 day it will reaches 0, it will reach 0, and again it will be filled up. Okay, and in 20 days again it will be reached to 0, and again it will be filled up, and again 20 days it will be reached to 0, again it will be filled up, and it will be reached to 0. Like this it will go on. Now the thing is, the lead time is 50 days, means when you have ordered, okay, so suppose you have ordered at this point, okay, or actually you have to do in the reverse way. So suppose you have ordered in this point, so each of this is duration 20. Okay, so suppose this is the point when you uh, order the armors, and you will we want to receive it at this point. Okay, so it will take 50 days. So it will take 50 days to reach the item to you. Okay, so the lambda L effective, which is basically effective lead time, will be the excess to the full cycle. So there are two full cycles, right? One is this one, another is this one. Okay, so the excess to the full cycle is basically 10, because one full cycle is 20, another full cycle is 20, right? So two full cycles will give you 40 days. So the excess days that will be remaining is 50 days, right? So that will be your effective lead time. Okay, so this duration from this point to this point will be basically of 10 days. Okay, so what you have to find out, you have to find out uh, the lead time demand, which will be basically this effective into the demand rate. Okay, so this is your 10, and your demand rate was 100, right? So 10 into 100, you will have 10,000 items as your lead time, sorry, 1000 item as your lead time demand. Okay, now to find out the lambda effective, actually what you can do to find out the lambda effective, you have to do is like L, which is basically the original lead time. Okay, this L, which is 50, minus what you can do is like t, okay, t into floor of L divided by t. This is how you can find out the lambda effective, okay, which will basically gives you, or sorry, I mean this is I mean pretty bad. Actually what we will give is nothing but the L mod t. This is the simpler expression, okay. So that will give you the excess amount of time, okay. So I mean always consider L effective as L modulus or L yes, L modulus t or L remainder t, okay. So the number of days which is basically excess in order of the full cycles. So here we will have two full cycles, right? That will cover the lead time and the excess amount will be 10 days. So that will be your L effective, okay, or lead effective lead time, okay. And to find out the effective lead time you can express you can use this expression L modulus t, where t is the cycle duration, okay. So what we found is for this, so we found that the L effective to be 10 days, and for that 10 days the demand per day is 100 units, so total demand will be 1000 units, okay. Okay, the next question is why we didn't employ linear programming to solve classical EOQ model without shortages. And most of you has have answered this one, like most of you have chosen this one, okay. We could not we could employ linear programming, but that would not be as efficient uh, as the approach we did. But that is not true. We could not employ linear programming here, because if you look at this model, classic classical EOQ model without shortage, right? Okay. So we actually need this expression. So if you look at this, so minimum total inventory cost per unit time, okay. So minimum total inventory cost per unit time is given by this expression, right? Right. Now if you look at the each term individually and how it is dependent on the order quantity Q. So if you look at this, so the first term, the holding cost, is basically linearly dependent on the order quantity Q, okay. So we can use a linear program if you have only holding cost over there. If you look at this term, okay, so that is your purchase cost, right? So the purchase cost also you can tell it is linearly dependent, because I mean there is no dependency on Q actually. So I mean, so if you have graph like this, okay, and suppose for holding cost, suppose for this holding cost you that is linearly dependent, okay. So that will be something like this, okay, which is linearly dependent. Now for this purchase cost which is not dependent on any value of Q, so that will be like a single line which is parallel to the Q axis, okay. So this is your Q axis, okay, and this is your the item. So the holding cost will be like linearly dependent, okay, and for this purchase cost that is not dependent on Q, it will be parallel to Q axis. Sorry, it will be this one. Sorry, it will be this way, not that way, okay. So let me try to remove this. Okay. So PT will be a single value, right? So whatever be the uh, am I correct or am I not? I got a bit confused actually. PT is a single value, and actually that should be given by this level, right? And that should be, yes. I was correct in the previous case. So PD will be some value, right, and which is not dependent on Q. So it will be like parallel to the Q axis, right? I was correct in the previous case. So anyways, so this is your holding cost, which will be dependent on your items, but this PD or purchase cost will not be dependent on Q, right? Whatever be the value of Q, it will not change dependent on Q. Okay, but if you look at this cost, right, which is the setup cost, so that will be is that is not linearly dependent on Q, right? So if you draw this graph against this Q, so whenever you are divided by Q, the graph will look like this one. Okay, so this is not linearly dependent, and for to solve any system using linear programming, we all the system, I mean all the constant will be all the systems or all the constant has to be linearly dependent with each other, right? But for this we found that this setup cost is not linearly dependent on the item quantity. Okay, so that's why we could not employ linear programming, because the setup cost per unit time is not linearly dependent on order quantity. Okay, so that is the thing. Whoever selected this option that we could employ linear programming, that is not the case, because we could not employ linear programming. Okay, we could not employ linear programming, and that is just because of this setup cost not being linearly dependent on order quantity. And finally, so I have solved all of them. Okay, so the last question is like, McDonald's is a famous company which makes burgers, right? And its burgers are at so high demand that as soon as a burger is made, it is consumed by some customer. So again the thing, as soon as something is produced, it is consumed, right? It means the production rate is equals to the demand rate. Okay, so assuming it follows the deterministic model, which of the following expression is the best representation of the minimum total inventory cost per unit time? Okay, so we have to find out the minimum total inventory cost per unit time. The variables used in this expression have their usual meaning. Okay, so if you look at this, so we'll have, so this model, what we have the EPQ model, right? Because we are producing burgers at some rate, and the demand is also equals to the rate at which it is consuming, it is producing, right? So the production rate and the consumption rate are basically same, or R equals to D, right? Where R is the production rate and D is the demand rate. Now if you come to the EPQ model, now here if you look at it, so what we have, if R equals to D, the holding cost and setup cost will become 0, as no inventory will be required. So only the only production cost will be there. Okay, so if you look at this expression, minimum total invested inventory cost per unit type, so this was the expression. Okay, now when R equals to D, this term will become 0, R minus D will become 0, right? So this part will become 0, we will only left with P into D, right? So many of you have chosen this thing in full, but that will not be the case, because as soon as a burger is produced, that is consumed, right? So R equals to D, it means this will become 0 and we will only left with P into D. Okay, so here the answer will be this P into D. Okay, and not this one, which many of you have chosen. Okay, many of you have chosen this one, which is not be the case. The answer will be P into D. So these are the explanation of the quizzes. So again, from this module, I mean from this inventory models, if you have any question, you can ask. any of the questions that is yet not cleared? So no questions. So okay, then let us finish this today's session. Okay, so if you have question you can ask, or you can also ping me, and or you can also post it in Google Classroom, whichever you feel convenient. Okay, you can also call me up to you. So anyways, ending today's session. Okay.